Hi everyone, welcome back. I hope you've all had a simply amazing day. Today I'll be transforming my royal beauty, My Little Pony, into the Disney princess Rapunzel from the movie Tangled. Now I've never done this before, so bear with me for a while we work it all out. To begin with, I'm going to make a pattern out of paper that I'll use for the dress, and I'll lay that on top of the pony just to get an idea what to do with the fabric. Here I'm sketching out in a pen, and then I'll cut it out and then place it on the pony, and then what I'll then do is, cut it a bit more just to make sure that it's what I want to do with the fabric. And then after I'm happy with the paper version, I'm going to use some scrap material. I'm going to be using rayon, which is just like a synthetic material, and it's the same kind of material I'll use for the dress as well. And I'll cut it out using the paper just to see how the material pulls and how it sits on the pony, just in case I need to make some more adjustments. And then once I'm happy with the pattern, I'll pin it to the real fabric, as you can see here, and using my fabric scissors I'll cut it out. So notice that I cut the fabric slightly bigger than it is on the pattern, and I've done that so that I can then leave a space for me to hem it. So I'll be folding over the edges really small and sewing around them just to make sure that the edges of this dress are reinforced. Now in this video I'll be doing it all by hand. If you're skilled enough to work that small on a machine, go for it, but at this stage I'll just keep practicing my hand sewing skills. So once I've cut out all the pieces, I'm going to go in with a small needle, some embroidery thread. I've separated this so I'm only using 2 strands of it, and I wanted to fold over the edge of the fabric and hem it, and I do this with every individual piece as I don't want any loose threads or the fabric running or anything like that. After doing this, I make sure that I pin the skirt and the bodice together just to cut it so that they'll sit nicely together. And then what I do is I'm going to be using a piece of lace on top of the skirt, and I pin that to the top of the skirt and cut it, and then I finish off the edges and then sew them together. Then after that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin the skirt and the bodice together, and then when I'm happy with how they look, I'll sew it. Now, once I did that, I moved on to hemming the front part of the pony's dress. Now, this took a little while as it was a bit of a strange shape. The neckline and some of the spaces that I'd left for the pony's legs made it a little bit more difficult, but we got through. Then, once I'd finished hemming that, I then pinned it onto the pony to see how the finished product would look. Now, I was happy with it, so I then moved on to the signature front crisscross lacing aspect of Rapunzel's dress. And for this I used ribbon, and let me tell you, it was a pain in my butt, but we got there. So first of all, I used a nice light, thicker piece of ribbon and cut it and folded it over. That was my first mistake because ribbon just doesn't like to hold together once you cut it. So I would suggest for you that perhaps you just fold it over the back, and that might be a little bit easier. Nonetheless, we went on and sewing it together to make it the right length for the front part of the dress, and then I used a bit of thinner ribbon that was darker and wrapped it around the edge just to sort of hold it all together. I covered the raw edge with that. This did not work exactly as I wanted it to, but it did the job well enough. Then once I'd done that, I pinned the thick larger ribbon onto the front of the dress in the middle. Using another thin dark ribbon, I sewed them down the sides so that the lighter ribbon was then secured to the front. Then I folded the ends of this smaller ribbon over to the back of the dress so they won't be seen, just because I didn't want to have to deal with finishing off the ends. Once I was happy with the ribbon and it was all secure and looked how I wanted it to, using the same small ribbon, I pinned it in the crisscross pattern and then stitched it on again. I didn't stitch all the way down, I just stitched at specific points, just because that would be a lot of stitching. And I folded the ends of this underneath to the back again, just to make it easier and cleaner. And as you can see here, I've got all 3 parts of the dress pinned to the pony, and it looks alright. I have then taken some purple organza and folded it over and sewed it together, just to give the skirt a little bit more volume. I then had another look at the way that the pony was looking, and I didn't like the way the skirt hung off the body, off the back end, and proceeded to unpick and repin the waist, making the skirt look much better in my mind. And then once the skirt was back on the bodice, I proceeded to sew the organza underneath and give the skirt that little bit of extra poof. And once that was done, I looked at some more pictures of Rapunzel and decided I wanted to add some lace around the neckline to give it a bit of a collar, so I then measured out the lace and pinned it on and stitched it. Once that was done and I was happy with it, I then put all the pieces back onto the pony and pinned them where I thought they should go. After I'd pinned it all into place and was happy with it, I took the dress off and sewed one whole side of it together so that it would then be a full structure. And then with that one side sewed, I then pinned the dress onto the pony and proceeded to very loosely sew up the other side and on the under side of the pony. I had to sew the dress on the physical pony, otherwise there would be no way of getting it on and off. I didn't want to put any closures because I didn't think any press studs or anything like that would work. They'd just be a little bit too big and take away from what I wanted. And if I ever want to take the dress off, I can just unpick these stitches. They're not big, it's not a whole lot of effort, so it'll just come right off. Then I went through and cut off the excess organza so it didn't hang too far outside of the actual skirt, because I just prefer it to look that way. I think it looks a little bit cleaner. And this here is the finished product. I really hope you like it as much as I do. This was my first sewing project in a few years, so it isn't the cleanest thing in the world, but I did my best and I'm really happy with how it came out. Thank you so much, guys. If you liked that video, you can tap that like button and ping the subscriptions to see more videos like this.